there was some kind of an event at the White House.
Yeah, they have Southeastern tourism.
And they sent you as the representative.
And the president called me, said, would you have any objection representing Mississippi as the #1 piano man in the state? And I'm saying, dear God, I haven't been here a year. I'm going to be insulting everybody in the state. I said, and it's exactly what I told him. You want a Yankee Jew boy to go to Mississippi, from Mississippi we're going to send you with catfish. They said, oh, my Lord.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Redbankgreen podcast. I'm here with Stormin Norman Seldin.
Yeah, that's the one.
Red Bank legend.
I don't know about legends. I'm alive, so
you are a musician, singer, bandleader, songwriter, arranger, producer, promoter, manager, music director, and record label owner. Did I cover everything?
Most of it, yeah.
Through all these years. Also, you were the owner of Seldin's Jewelry and Seldin's Trinket. Your parents.
Seldin's Jewelers was my parents. Seldin's Department Store on the west side was my grandfather and uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Harold Engineer was a civil engineer. Ray Seldin was the accountant. Stormin Norman Productions was my booking agency, and Seldin's Trinkets was my wife Jamie's store for 25 years.
So incredible deep roots in Red Bank.
Since they came during the Depression from Russia.
Wow. And so you're these roots in Red Bank. You are also the guy who had Clarence Clemens hired out from under him by Bruce Springsteen, and you represented the state of Mississippi at the White House.
For the state of Mississippi as a pianist, and they sent me with fried catfish. And my partner sitting next to me was from Georgia, was Hank Aaron. He came with peaches.
All these crazy stories are outlined in your book. But
it's crazy.
Let's start from the beginning. You mentioned you had, in the book, you said you had a strange childhood. You described that as.
I started formal piano lessons at the age of 3. I couldn't reach the pedals, but one of the music teachers at Rumson High School at the time was a friend of my mother's. So they started teaching me everything. I couldn't reach the pedals, and they used to form my hands with a peach, and if I pushed too hard and messed it up, then I had to clean the mess up. I knew my fingers weren't curved. But I started formally at 3, and I practiced 5 to 8 hours a day.
So your parents owned a jewelry shop in downtown Red Bank, right on Monmouth Street?
Right, and originally my mother was from the Bahamas, and she met my father when he was in the Navy in Florida.
Wow.
And the jewelry business actually came from her side of the family. It was taught to my father.
And there's mentions in the book of your grandparents on the west side then, too.
Seldin's
right?
Department Store. And, of course, there was Cohen's Department Store. They were all our cousins. The Cohens, the Seldins were all cousins. So everything, and Benny's Market was over there when we all went, and butchers were over there. And the fresh fruit guy came when I was a little kid, and I spent pretty much every Friday and Saturday at my grandfather's store, Seldin's Department Store, and he believed, pro wrestling was real, so we used to watch it. But he used to walk up and down Shrewsbury Avenue from one end to the other any time of the night. It was always peaceful, and everybody knew everybody. And my first doctors were Dr. Parker, Sr. and Jr., right across the street.
They were your doctors. They treated you.
They treated the whole family.
Wow.
The whole family.
Now, the street named after them.
Yes.
Someone like me who comes into town and moves in later, I just see these names of the Parkers and the Parker Family Health Clinic and titans of Red Bank. And now you have this personal connection to me.
And he was
amazing.
a customer in the store. And, of course, we pierced ears in the jewelry store, thousands of pierced ears. And Dr. Parker always said if God wanted you to have pierced ears, he would have given them to you when you were born. But he approved of it all. He was a good family friend. And I used to go see him before I went to Dr. Simon later on. And, you had to wait in line. You sat and waited in the line. There's 40 people, and you waited until it was your turn. And there used to be a little sign hanging up there that was dusty. It said, please pay upon your visit $10. It was up there for years. That was the exam price to go to the doctor. Wow. And he would be there at 5 in the morning. He would work until 10. He would do hospital rounds. Then he would come back, and he would do the regular patients in the afternoon. And what do you want? He just looked at me, and he said, as long as you're not doing anything, run across the street and get this prescription filled. This little old lady's too old to walk across the street to Katz's. Go fill this prescription. Oh, you got an hour for you. Take this one home in your car. It was different then.
Yeah.
But it was peaceful, and we waited for the ice cream man and the fruit man and Benny's Market. They spoke 4 or 5 languages. Everybody was there. It was crazy.
And then so by 13 or 14 years old, you are playing in bands and then promoting shows and booking shows in the area.
I played my own 8th grade graduation. I went to Manhattan School of Music, got out of high school early, finished Manhattan School of Music, and immediately went from strictly classical, which was 6 to 8 hours a day. I went right to the New Orleans music for Fats Domino and Big Joe Turner and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard, and just turned everything around to that and applied everything I knew towards that.
And you're booking shows. I mean, there's stories of you not even being old enough to sign the checks.
My mother had to sign the checks for me because I was 14 and a half.
14-year-old promoter. You're
Right.
booking and then who are you booking? Who are you bringing into the area?
Oh, I had the original Duprees. I had Johnny Maestro, the Brooklyn Bridge. I had Vito and the Salutations, the Shells, the Dubs. You name it, Santo and Johnny.
And you're booking them where? Like, and where are the venues?
I had teenage venues. I took the West End Casino in Long Branch and drew 500 to 1,000 kids every Friday. Took the Matawan Keypart Rowerodrome and held Battle of the Bands there, and had everybody there from the Dovelles to the Ad-Libs and when I think I just turned 17. That's when the Young Rascals opened for the Beatles at Shea Stadium. And I was the first promoter to bring the Rascals to New Jersey after the Shea Stadium show for the Beatles.
And there's an anecdote in the book about that show. What did you do at that show? Didn't you play the Rascals hit yourself? You were warming up for them?
Yeah, the manager was really nasty. We said, I want to see the person in charge. And of course, I had the big B3, and they were going to use my setup because they used the B3 and multi-Leslie's. And I had a couple winners from the Battle of the Bands. That was in the audience was Bruce Springsteen and Vinnie Lopez. It's the first night that Vinnie Lopez ever met Bruce was there. Mm-hmm. And the bands that won the Battle of the Bands got to play on the stage. The Soul Set was my group at the time, and Doc Holliday was my guitar player, who's now done 600 hits out of Nashville. And we were on after the Motifs, which is a group I managed, and they had a huge following, and they on my record label also. And just something irked me, and I said, you know what? Open our set with Good Lovin' in front of the Rascals.
So you're playing in front of the Rascals, and you open the set with Good Lovin'.
Yeah, I was an arrogant.
I mean that.
I was arrogant. I was PO'd, and I said, you know what? The hell with them. I'm paying them anyway. So.
And how old were you when you did that?
I just turned 17.
Wow, that's some cojones.
Well. I had them, I've when I met my last wife, Jamie, that just passed away actually in February 2000 this year. She basically took over my career and handled all the hot-tempered things, and she took care of all the travel. If you'd have the Temptations, the big parties, I booked the regular groups, but she handled all the paperwork for me, and she was a retained corporate headhunter. When I met her by mistake in Florida, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. It was the first time I ever left the bandstand. And when she took me to Atlanta, she introduced me to her clients, and they were Joe Torre and Fran Tarkenton, and she booked all the people for Home Depot. So she was a powerhouse headhunter. 3 real estate licenses, and that really nice Southern voice that nobody could get mad at. I would scream and yell, just stop. Stop cussing, stop yelling, give me the phone number, let me talk to him. And every time she got done, I would say, you're dealing with animals. Some of these guys don't care. And at the time, they only had fax paper. There weren't emails. And she said, you want to row across the bridge in Florida and go get this thing signed? And I'd walk. Are you going to look and see? And I remember the argument at one time. It was over $300 or $400. I said, I'll just take it. She said, why don't you look at your own contract? You look at all the groups you book. And I looked. She didn't get me $400. She got me $2,000. Wow. And she wanted it paid in advance. And if the job was canceled, I get paid anyway. She wrote contracts that were just incredible.
Right. So she was there and helped you with that kind of stuff that you maybe didn't have the temperament to do.
She quadrupled my
income. That's the definition of a good relationship.
She quadrupled my income.
Wow.
she took me into the hemisphere. And she knew how to do it. She said, you can do all the talking. You have the history. Let me make the introduction.
But that you can call it arrogance or whatever it is, that chip on your shoulder that you had. Back in those days when you were booking those bands in this area, that served you well because you were pushing the envelope in terms of what was acceptable in terms of the racial relations, right? You were bringing in black bands here, and you were taking flack for that.
I was not well received because when I was younger, there was not a big Jewish population. I was suspended for elementary school for going to the Jewish holidays, for taking them off. My parents had to go in and get that straightened out.
Incredible. That was in Fairhaven.
Yeah, Fairhaven. Yeah. I mean, I was.
You took the Jewish holidays off, and you got suspended.
Yeah.
For
truancy. Yeah. And they just didn't recognize it. And whenever there were parties, everybody around me that we went to school with would be at these birthday parties, but the 4 families that were Jewish were never invited, even though they were our friends. I didn't find it out till later. It was irrelevant. I was at Hebrew school every day, Orthodox Hebrew school, from Monday to Friday after public school. And unfortunately, my Hebrew school teacher had been a Nazi war camp survivor, and he walked hunch because he broke his back on one of those torture racks. And when I first met him, he was killing kosher chickens. He was washing his hands, and I saw the tattoo, and I didn't know what it was. I was 5 years old, and he said, "You're never to have one of these. Jewish people don't get tattoos." And he told me what it was, and over the period of time, I realized what it was. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And studying that young, that's all I had. I wasn't allowed to play sports. They were afraid I'd hurt my hands. And if I played sports, they wanted me to play them with only Jewish kids. And the only Jewish people I knew were Sandy Koufax, and these were adults. So I didn't, I never had a racial or a color barrier. And I had a statement one time to somebody, and it started with Harry Ray from the Valtairs, who was from Long Branch, and there were kids there. I was their age, a year older, but I knew what I needed to hear, and my mother lent me money to get them dressed in outfits and have them ready for the shows. And I'm a white kid that's a mediocre dancer teaching these kids steps from Motown, but getting them ready for stage, and everything was a pro thing. And my car got carved, "You so-and-so hater," so many times that it was in the body shop more than I had it.
You would come out from a gig and find your car.
Oh yeah, you
carved it.
You and hater, you Jew, this you just carved right in the hood
for hiring
for using
black acts.
Yeah,
in this area.
And the funny thing was, my audience was all white.
Yeah,
they came to hear these groups, so I was mixing in local bands with rhythm and blues.
Yeah,
that's the way I saw it, and I thought that had settled down for quite a while, and then. When I put Clarence came, got a flat tire one night, and he just happened to come in, and I'm playing at a place, and because he was huge, and he said, "Is there a telephone? I got a flat tire." And then he said, "Oh, there's a band here," and I had a huge afro like Billy Preston. He said, "Yeah." He said, "You allow people to sit in?" I said, "Sure." And the audience was all white at the time. My drummer was from Vito and the Salutations, who did Gloria and Shane Melody. He'd been with me a number of years. He said, "So what do you want to play?" He said, "Well, what can you play?" I said, "You want King Curtis? You want Billy Stewart? You want Jackie Wilson? Whatever, we know it all." Well, he sat in, and my drummer looked at me and said, "You're not doing this again." He said, "Not again. We can't go through this again." I got done. I said, "How'd you like to work 4 or 5 nights a week?" He said, "This week?" I said, "No, for the rest of the year." And I hired him on the spot. And as soon as word got out, as far south as way down below Seaside Heights, that I put a black man in the band, every club called up and fired me.
Holy.
They didn't want him there. And I said, "I don't understand something." I said, "Can I ask you a basic question?" I said it to 2 or 3 owners. I said, "If you cut yourself and you bleed, did you bleed red?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "And if it bleeds too long, do you die?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "If your heart stops, do you die?" "Yeah." I said, "Then what difference does the color make?" "It makes no difference. We just don't want this, that, and the other." I said, "Fine." Never said a word. to Clarence about it and kept exposing us out of town. We took out-of-town jobs. 6 months later, they all called back. We reconsidered those dates. We'd like to have you back again. And I said, sure, add a few zeros and make it worth my while. But never did I once ever let him know that went on.
No, I'm sure he knew it went on. I mean, I'm sure
we went about our business.
Yeah.
We did our rehearsals. We joked around. We clowned around. We went all over. I had racehorses at the time. I was young. That's how I got the name Stormin Norman, because I registered nationally way before Schwarzkopf. So the minute I turned 18, I bought a horse and we named him Stormin Norman. So that became my name nationally. And all the jockeys that I lived with, who were friends, they used to call me Stormin Norman. So we named the horse that, and that's how it happened.
What is it? What was it inside you that made you not want to put up with that bullshit, with the racial stuff? Was it your own experience with anti-Semitism? Was it just the music, and you just wanted good music and didn't care? Or
I wanted good music. I wanted to expose music. I wanted to record music. I wanted to write. I was the first one to put acapellas in a recording studio, which some of those records are worth $500 a piece now. I was in the best studio in New York. I heard things because my mother pushed me. She dragged me around when I was 12. I was not ready, but I remember standing in the hallway in the Ed Sullivan building before I started playing and recording there. And there were people arguing in the hallway, and I remember them saying, we need to send this kid back home. This kid is never going to make it. Let's just send him back to Canada. They were talking about Paul Anka. They said he would never make it. He was never going to have a hit. He would never write a song. We were wasting our money. They're the guys with the cigars. And I remember all that. And I said, and another one was my engineer I ended up working with. They told him that a certain girl would never have a hit record. Connie Francis, he said, I'll record her.
Yeah.
Leslie Gore, I'll record her. So I got firsthand with all these people from the age of 15 up with the best players in the world. And I was in Studio B. I got to be with Tito Puente and with the OJs and Manhattans, everything. So I was just doing well. Everything was, going my way. And the Bernard Purdy's the most recorded drummer in the world. His Cornell Dupree, all these people had things to say, and they used to stop in and give me tutelage in Studio B on their spare time. And I knew at the time a couple of them said they didn't even care for,
right.
Who was he? He said, this isn't how it's played. This is how it's played on B3. And he'd spend 20 minutes, hey, you got that? And it wasn't long before they started calling me in to do sessions.
Wow. So all those years when you're younger, you were playing in bands, promoting shows.
I was in the Brill Building with Jim McCarthy, who was a promotional publicity for Lester Lannon and Peter Duchin. And he also owned the Shells and the Dubs. And he said, why aren't you recording? You're as good as anything you're recording on your label. I said, well, let's put it on my list. So he put it on his label. The first song I put out broke top 10 all the way down to Florida on his label with me promoting, and sold about 5,000 copies on my own label. So things were doing okay.
But it's amazing how many things you're doing at once, right?
Yeah,
Playing in bands, record label, and you're supposed to be keeping an eye on the shop here in Red Bank.
Yeah, and
right?
I was working that for him when I wasn't there, and opening the store and doing the
jewelry
windows
stuff.
display. Yeah. I mean, you did, and when I get back from here, was school sweep the store.
Yeah.
It was a very, very strange childhood. Very strange.
You even sort of whisked through high school at some independent school.
There was a little school used to be called
the
Georgia B. Hazard School, which now was taken down. It was a one-room schoolhouse, but she taught all ages. And I went in there. Rumson High School and I did not get along at all. In fact, the words that were exchanged there we couldn't use on any.
You should wear that like a badge of honor.
Well, they said if I ever left Rumson High School, I'd become a garbage man. That's the best I would ever be. And, I think my comment to him, I said, better to be a good garbage man than to be a nobody. And, of course, my mother said, you're out of here. And she took me to this one-room schoolhouse, and I stayed there morning and afternoons and nights, and finished everything up, passed the equivalency, and then went right to Manhattan School of Music when I was 14.
Wow. Your mom was great. I mean, your dad was rough. You described in the
rough.
book some rough times with him, but your mom was
She was
encouraging you with the music and everything. Not a lot of parents would do that back in the day.
She loved the rhythm and blues, and of course, originally she came out of Nassau, Bahamas, and she was a fan of good bouncing music. She was a great singer too. She got a scholarship to go to Juilliard, but her father believed that women should only have babies and cook for their husbands, so he refused to pay her scholarship. But she sang at all the local operas and operettas and did some singing. My father and her did some playing together also. He was in the symphony at 17, master bassist, but, we had our differences, which I try to hide some of it. But
you're pretty candid in the book about it.
I had to be.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote that is a historian with 3 PhDs, and he researched everything. He said, we could have written 700 pages, he said, without a doubt.
Yeah, the book I couldn't put down. It is incredible. But then you wind up in Mississippi and Florida.
I had I got my first marriage broke up, and I was warned by the second marriage, please don't marry this girl. Don't. I was doing the racetrack. I had all the race horses.
You owned race horses?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I had 7 of them. And a lot of my roommates were jockeys. So, occasionally got very lucky, made a lot of money, and just moved out and had this little apartment. And from that, I kept playing music. And the jockeys, of course, always wanted to be stars. They wanted to sing. They couldn't sing a note, but they'd come up and sing with a band, and they drew people. So I'm drawing all kinds of people. And I can remember being in Long Branch in the first summer, and in walks Walt Frazier from the Knicks. He was a prime player then. He said, you have some band. He became a regular. Of course, where they go, where the jockeys go, the girls flow. And Harry Ray was there, and he was singing with the group. And then he came to me one day. He said, I'm going to be going in the military. I said, okay. When he came out of the military, the first call he made was, could I audition to come back with your band? I said, come back. And I had called Motown about Harry a dozen times when I was 17. And I was in a total black DJ network from all the way from Baltimore all the way down to Miami. And Jocko Henderson, who was the big DJ in New York, WADO, introduced me to all these DJs with my records on my labels. And my afro was this big, and they said, what's this little white kid doing at this meeting it was at Ray Charles Tangerine Music. He said, Norman only records black acts, and we want you to play all his records. And this is exact words were, I want every one of your stations from D.C. to Miami, Florida, Virginia, to have these records, the pick hit of the week on your station. And in those days, I guess it was payola. Every one of them got 25 copies of each record. They sold them, and within 2 weeks, I was on 29 charts as pick hit of the week, just from his introduction. And he took me everywhere with the Valtairs. And he had me at the Audubon Ballroom a week after Malcolm X was assassinated, which was a great place to be.
Wow.
The silhouette was still on the floor from him. And that show had Jackie Wilson on it and Billy Stewart. And I said, what am I going to do with my kids here at this? He said, and I'm 17. I just got a driver's license. He said, your kids are going to kill this. And they did.
Wow. Speaking of assassinations, though, you had another gig booked
at Val Ernie Seagard Inn.
The night of JFK's assassination.
Correct.
You had a big gig booked, like 1,000 people coming. You had performers come. Who was coming down?
We had the Shells, the Dubs, Rito and the Salutations, 4 of my own acts, and we got death threats on the phone at my
You went on. The show went on.
It had to as a pay or play. And Johnny Thunder, who did Here We Go Loop-de-Loop, was my first national act. And Johnny called and said, Norma, I'll be glad to cancel, I said, people are coming. So we kept getting the phone calls. The amazing thing was I had 395 people show up.
Wow.
It was very trying. Took a lot of flack for that, too. But the show went on.
Yeah.
You know.
What did they play? Did they tone down and play different? Yeah, you just played.
Straight ahead, rhythm and blues, the dance acts. I had the same agent that was booking James Brown and was booking Otis Redding, and that was booking me at the time. So I had all the work I could handle. I really was. I went 1 year working every night of the year, from Red Bank to Greenwichville.
And at some point, you some things came crashing down on you, and you decided you had to. Oh, you were playing in a bar in Seabright that was mobbed up, and you had to kind of. That was when you were like, "I'm getting out of Jersey."
No. Well, it was mobbed up, but we had our own showroom, and I actually picked
This
up.
is later on now.
Yeah,
I'm fast forwarding.
Yeah, this is later on. This is in the
80s.
Yeah, and I said, I've got to get out of here, and I took the new wife I was with, which they said wouldn't last, which didn't, and left for Mississippi. On the blind, the friend had picked up my stuff from the apartment, took it down there, but it was in his name. Got down there, I didn't know M from O, and I'm staying in the house that he's renting, and all of a sudden, the job isn't there that I'm supposed to work with him, and he runs off with my wife and leaves me with his. So, I mean, the catastrophe just kept growing, and I sat in the corner of this house for 2 or 3 weeks, and then finally somebody that I had met said, "Didn't you just finish a recording with some of the guys in the East Street Band and all these records?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Somebody wants to hear you play." And I had one set of speakers, one little mixer board, a microphone, and my car. Everything else was in storage with this guy that had all my stuff. So I went that night. I played at this place, and the back nightclub was packed, and the front had a older piano. It got through the hour. I did about 40 minutes and got done. And I wasn't used to the talking of the "come on over here," that nasal thing from down Mississippi. He said, "Come over here, Stormin, come over here and talk to me now." And I go over, and he introduced me to 4 or 5 gentlemen, I say hi. He says, "A yellow pad there on the table. Every one of them wants you in the Mississippi Delta as soon as you can go to work." I said, "Well, how many nights?" He says, 7 nights a week for the next year.
Damn. So
they never heard of anything like you.
So you plop down in Mississippi.
And nowhere.
Out of nowhere, and then you end up making it work, and
I made it work
with a thriving career down there.
Thriving to the point where my name was spread all the way down south, of course, Atlanta. And then I got a visit one night at a nightclub from a person from Panama City Beach, Florida, which I never heard of in my life. And that's where all the spring breakers were going.
Yeah, there's some crazy photos in the book of your years in Florida.
Oh, yeah, they were good. And those photos are that old, and they're current as far as it looks right now. And I got down there, and I had such a good time in Mississippi. I was treated so well there that I always said if I ever married a third time, it would be a girl from Mississippi. Put it out of my mind. They came and got me. My daughter had come to live with me, one of my daughters, completely out of sorts, but everybody rallied behind me there. Whatever I needed for my daughter, private school, owners were paying for private school, making sure she was taken care of, and giving me more work than I could handle. And all of a sudden the guy walked in and he said, I was sent here to bring you to Panama City Beach, Florida. I said, "Where the hell is Panama City Beach, Florida?" He said, "Oh, once you get there, you'll never want to leave. They're going to love you." He said, "But you'll be the MC, the booking agent for all the groups." And this club held 3,000 people, big club. Parking lot was 10 acres, and they had, I think, 18 bar stations. I never saw anything like this in my life. So I went there, and he said I had to help him with hiring people and certain bands that come for certain spring break, and MC the contest, create contests, play my solo show, play with the one band on one side, book the band. Crazy. So I got down there, I got settled in there, and it was a crazy era where you did a lot of crazy things.
But before you left Mississippi, this is what I mentioned in the very beginning, is that there was some kind of an event at the White House.
Yeah, they have Southeastern Tourism.
And they sent you as the representative.
And the president called
Mississippi.
me, said, would you have any objection representing Mississippi as the #1 piano man in the state? And I'm saying, dear God, I haven't been here a year. I'm going to be insulting everybody in the state. I said, and it's exactly the way I told him, you want a Yankee Jew boy to go to Mississippi, from Mississippi we're going to send you with catfish. They said, oh, my Lord. I said, sure. And he said, just there's certain songs, he said, try to keep them out of your repertoire from, I had a version of Short People. It was called White People. And they said, please keep that one off the stage So I got there, and I'm saying, who the hell's going to be there? And I'm sitting on the airplane, and I turn around next to me, and there's Hank Aaron. And he's going from Georgia. He's got peaches and Hank Aaron. I've got fried catfish in me.
Jewish kid from Red Bank sitting next to Hank Aaron going to represent Mississippi.
Yeah. And on the White House grounds.
Oh, my God.
And I did not know that everything was being taped because it was Southeastern Tourism. I had a younger girl that was living with me in Mississippi at the time. I didn't know there were cameras following everything, and I didn't pay much attention. But they said, the runner-up for Miss Georgia and her would both like to sing a song with you. So I said, what have I got to lose? And I looked, and, scale of 1 to 10, of course, there were 14. And did a couple songs with them, and the one said, oh, we're all staying in the same hotel. Which figured, D.C., nice place. I never looked behind me. I just kept walking. She said, oh, we have rooms next to each other. And I said, yeah, so we do, She opens her door. She goes, why don't you just come in for a minute? And she pulls me in the door, and I turn around, and here's all the TV cameras from Mississippi and down south. It's my face and her face being dragged into her room, and who's watching but my girlfriend in Mississippi. She's watching. I mean, if it could go any worse, it was trials and experiences. I said, hey, what can I say?
But I got to rewind. You played a version of Randy Newman's Short People that said white people. Mm-hmm. You changed the words to white people.
Yes, and it brought me over $5,000 worth of tips in Mississippi. Because they thought they're making fun of all their rednecks down there. They thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And every time I did it, they would walk up and they would throw never less than $20, $20, $50, $100. Hey, you're playing white people's song, Stormin. Let me hear that again. I was more sick of that than I was playing Piano Man. But I made a fortune with it.
You could play anything then. I mean, your range, your musical range is just amazing.
Yeah,
from your classical training to...
But when I had the heart thing, that was an aortic dissection, and you don't survive from that.
This is when this is later.
I was at the Parker House.
You went to after your couple of years in Florida and Mississippi. You returned to New Jersey.
I came back to Red Bank.
Back to Red Bank.
And was being booked solid. And I was 6 nights a week, Jenkinson's Pavilion, the Parker House, the Columns, Bayville. I was going 5-6 nights a week, nonstop, for 3 times more money than most people were making, and we were a smash wherever we went. And all of a sudden, one day, I got dizzy, and I said, I feel hot. Get me outside, and the air conditioner was over me. I had an aortic dissection. I blacked out. I was out for about 40 minutes on the back deck, and I woke up, and the paramedics are all around me, and I looked at my watch. I said, "Oh God, I've got to get back on." They said, "Oh, you're done. Your stuff's packed up. You want to go to the hospital?" I said, "No." I didn't call my wife, which I always did on a break. So when she saw my truck being pulled up with somebody else, and she said, "You want to go have yourself checked?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, if I have a glass of wine, we're not going anywhere." I felt fine. I revived from it. So she said, "Let's go check it out anyway." I get to the hospital, and they misdiagnosed me and say I have pancreatitis. The next morning, I collapsed on the floor, and thank God Roland Belushi came in. He said, "This guy should have been a surgery lad. He's got an aortic dissection, which is instant death." John Ritter had the same thing. He died in 30 minutes. So they had to get me down to Jersey Shore, and it was a 9-hour operation, and they had to take my heart out, put me on life support. and they found out the aortic valve was out and the aorta had ruptured. So they had to replace that over 9 hours and send progress reports to my wife and my best friend, Pam McCoy, who's, my singer. And they didn't know who was my wife, the brunette or the blonde. They were 9-hour operation, and I survived it.
This was, what year was that? That was many years ago now, right?
That was, I guess it's been, 20.
Amazing. 20 plus?
Oh, yeah, because I was married to Jamie for 35. It happened about 22 years ago.
Wow.
And the recovery time, they said, was going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 months before I could play again. I said, it's not possible because I'll be out of the business. So they let me start. As that summer, it was 108 degrees out, one of those crazy summers. And I played outdoors. I said, I've got to be back on stage. And the surgeon said, there's just no way in hell. And he started shaking. He said, you have no fluid in your lungs, nothing. I said, well, I don't drink, I don't smoke. He said, well, we'll see, we'll give it a day or two and come back next week. So he said, we can do one day. I said, I can't do one day. I've got to do 4 days. I have to be back before Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought I died.
Right.
They were mourning it already. And I came back, and the first night I had to play was outdoors. It's 108 degrees. And I looked in the audience. The owner had called in the afternoon. He said, what in the hell did you do? I said, I just sent a note out that I'd be back on stage tonight. He said, Norman, I hold 150 people outside and 90 inside. I have 490 reservations. Went out there to play, and I look in the audience. There were more doctors and nurses out there trying to make sure that that I didn't collapse. And I got through it. I had to go behind my van and my truck, and the blood was coming up because my system wasn't used to it, but I got through it. And at the end of that 6-month run again, that's when I realized I couldn't keep that pace anymore.
Yeah.
So I was called by a corporate headhunter, which I didn't know what the hell it was. When Jamie said, well, that's what I am, Norman. So they're calling from Jacobs Music in Philadelphia. I said, I hate Philadelphia. I don't go to Philadelphia. They said, well, they want somebody with your experience that can explain pianos and be a manager. I said, I don't want to manage anything. I don't want to work for. I never worked for anybody else. Give it a try. Well, I went in. I didn't ever wear ties because when I was younger, my father hung me up in the air by a tie and almost choked me to death. So I never wore ties. This job called for a suit and tie. So I got lucky and found zip ties. Did you ever see them?
No.
They zipper. They don't clip, and they go right up to a perfect square knot. So I have about 150 of them. And I bought beautiful suits, and I went in dressed to a T. And the first day I got there, the owner owned 7 stores, and he said, just let Norman observe. He's well-versed in display and everything, but let him see what's going on. Some guy walked in and drove up in a Bentley and came in, and nobody wanted to wait on him. It was a rotation. The woman didn't want him. The second didn't want him. The other one said, I don't want him. I said, what the hell, I guess it's me. I said, can I help you? He said, yeah, would it be okay if I brought my son in? And I'm looking at this guy wearing a 4-carat diamond and a Rolex watch. I said, what do you mean? Well, they told me I shouldn't bring my son in. He puts his fingers on the pianos. I said, go get him and bring him in. Brings him in on top of his shoulders, and I said, here, sit him at my desk. I gave him a coloring book and, the whole thing. And he said, what do you like? Daddy, I want one of those pianos that play. I didn't know anything about these pianos. I play piano, another about CDs and, I go get the manager of the whole company. He's there for the day. I said, Mark, how do you turn this on? He goes, I don't know. I said, what? You don't know? I said, I've got a customer. He goes, well, let's figure it out. Well, I think I got a Garth Brooks things to play, and the kid was, so then he hands me a Black American Express card. We didn't take charge cards. We only took personal checks. He said, well, let me run out to the car, watch my kid for a minute. Comes in, he had a check with him. So he wrote a check out for like $40,000 and made it out to the company. And I just sat it down. I thanked them, and walked them back out. And everybody in the place was laughing at me. They said, "Oh, well, that makes all 4 people now. This guy was a waste." I said, "Could somebody please show me how to get to the bank?" I had a $46,000 check. "You think that's any good?" I said, "You think that gold Rolex watch and that 3-carat diamond and that pair of $300 jeans and that $90,000 car were because this check's going to bounce? Take the check." So from that point on, it just kept going and going, and it took me 2 years to become the number 1 salesperson out of 34.
These are Steinways we're selling.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I
Still doing that?
Actually, I'm still tied up with them, although they closed the Shrewsbury store. But I am still recognized as a Steinway Superior recording artist and one of their valued teachers. So I still refer, and
And you've been playing Steinways, right?
That's all I've played my whole life.
Your whole
My
life.
first piano was a Steinway.
Your house is like all those Steinways lying around.
Well, there's 2 in
lined up.
storage.
Uh-huh.
There's an upright, and then there's 2 digitals. Then there's another digital in my garage, another one in the car, and another one in Pennsylvania. So I have them all over the place.
I got a good photo of you with all those Steinways.
Well,
we'll put it up with
well,
this.
well,
We'll post it with this.
Well, there's digitals.
Yeah.
The big ones are 9 foot long. They don't fit.
Right,
in my
of
hand.
course.
So, but there's just a lot that went on. It's hard to recall everything. I recall that whole book to Charlie by memory. I have a photographic memory, and he said, "This is impossible." He said, and he researches deep. He said, "There's over 2,000 articles and pictures from you from London, from everybody." I said, "Never got a chance to see him. I was in there for 1 day, went to Michigan the next day, lecturing professors about the mellotron." He said, "It could be 700 pages." I said, "Well, just make it an easy read book and give them an idea."
But your life encapsulates so many threads of this area, of this part of New Jersey, right? It's
Right.
like you have the music scene that was unique in that time and place, the race relations, which was underlying everything that you had to navigate in a whole bunch of different ways, and then just this sort of classic Red Bank upbringing of your parents having a shop here. I mean, it's just a classic.
I mean, I
Red Bank
remember
story.
picking the fruit out from when I was a little kid, and the ice cream man, and picking out the Hostess cupcakes, and remembering when they were a nickel or a dime, and smelling all that nice meat from Benny's Market across the street from the store, and going over there and wanting prosciutto and the fresh nuts, and and the guy spoke 5 languages, and it was a whole education that's gone, but thankfully things have changed a lot. There's a lot of good things here. You have a very energetic mayor who favors music, which is an international language. I don't care who or what you play, and it leans to that. I kind of get lost in the shuffle. A lot of people just, he doesn't really want to work. He does. My whole living is playing. If I'm booked 7 nights, I play 7 nights. And I just recently went into Pennsylvania and discovered a little town above Doylestown. And a few stars live there, like Bradley Cooper, Rod Stewart, Bob Dylan's son, Pink. Taylor Swift just bought an estate there. Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees is there, and the list goes on. And it's exactly 2 miles from where my friend's place is, where I stay up there. So I'm starting to move in, and I'm going to be doing some stuff in 2025 in New Hope.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But I'll be doing the Triumph Brewery, which I'll announce later.
You're right.
Which is such a great place.
Yeah, let's bring this up to. I mean, when you mentioned the mayor, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you in here now, right now, is because Porchfest is coming up.
Can I read from this?
Yeah, you're going to be playing, right? You'll be one of the people playing at Porchfest. You'll be set up over on McLaren.
I'm going to be at 77 McLaren Street starting at 1 p.m. with double pianos and vocals, all New Orleans classics, ragtime and blues. Bring your lawn chairs. Here's something unique. My partner is Ryan Gregg. He's half my age, and we're known to be one of the best piano duets in the tri-state.
I'm putting my hands over my face because I'm going to be out of town this weekend. I'm going to miss it. I'm like, I have this annual trip I'm doing, and I'm like,
and we're the only ones playing at that thing because the piano's being there, and I'll be at the Triumph Brewery, which is next to Two River Theater. That's going to be in November 10th from 1 to 4. It's going to be Ryan and myself, so it'll be a very, very unique.
when is that?
That's going to be, when is that? November 10th.
All right, I'm coming to that.
I wanted to mention, and it's important to me, you have a great a couple organizations, Havcor. They provide housing and homeless veterans and families with kids and families in need. And every Porchfest will have a donation box or purchase a 50-50 ticket or a T-shirt. Do something. They do amazing things. And you, for one, know of this, but the New Jersey Center for the Healing Arts, which is at 248 Broad Street in Red Bank, who turns no family down, regardless of their age. If they don't have insurance, psychotherapy, clinical supervision, consultation supported by donations. It's one of the most amazing facilities I've ever seen. And I've seen the people in it, and everybody's welcome there.
Yeah, great place.
It is.
I've gone there myself.
Yeah, it's and it's helped me a whole lot.
Yeah, me too.
Somebody, you have to talk to somebody, and your best friends sometimes aren't the answer.
No.
But somebody else has been there, and they are supported by donations. And at some point before the new year, probably before we do we do something in Asbury for Parkinson's, raising a lot of funds. I'm going to be writing to 200 or 300 of Jamie's best friends, and I'm going to make a large donation in her name, probably to the Center of the Healing Arts in Havcor.
Wow.
And many people loved her. She had 2,500 customers in her store.
Wow. Today's her birthday.
Today's her birthday.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah. And I can.
I didn't think it was going to be that bad. It is.
Yeah. But you are carrying on her legacy with all this.
Yeah. She never let anybody down with anything. When people came in from a church from out of town that were looking for $5, she was the first one to reach in and give them 20. How much do you really? If we had $50 more, we can print our programs for next month. She would go write a check. She never asked who or what they were. Never even asked for a deduction slip.
And you two met where along this whole
I was playing
wild route laid out in this
I was
book?
playing after doing the beach for 4 years in Panama City Beach. Of all places, a 5-star Marriott wanted me to play their lounge in Panama City Beach. I said, I'm a rogue. I was in cutoffs. They said, well, you'll have to wear long pants, but bring your whole bandstand. We'll change the grand piano out with every month for you. We'll give you first choice on all the conventions that come in, AT&T, the vacuum cleaner places. Book all the entertainment for that. First call for all of the events. You'll be the house entertainer. Jamie wrote the contract, which if you saw this contract on your best day, you would never sign it. What she asked for, I said, they're never going to sign this. She said, did you ever ask for this? I said, no. She said, can't get hurt when you asked. And they looked at the contract, all 8 pages. The only thing they didn't want to give me was health insurance. Everything else. Of free suites twice a month. Dinner for 5 every Sunday for a Marriott brunch, which was tremendous. All the first rights to everybody that comes in for entertainment, no matter who it is. And I get done with that. They send it off to Atlanta, and Atlanta approves it in 5 minutes. And if they want to let me go, they have to pay me for 4 months in advance.
Nice.
Or use me.
So that's how you met. You met her.
She walked in one night. I was playing in the Marriott on the stage with everything around me. The place is packed, and the sun came in off the lagoon, and in walks this blonde that I have never seen in my life, and she is strictly not from there, and the miniskirt and the high heels and the beautiful blonde hair and this look on his sundress I have never seen in my life. For the first time in my life, I stopped my set. I shut everything off, and I hopped over the rail in front of these people and got in front of her and said, "Who are you and where did you come from?" And she was like, it's just like, I never did this before. And of course, everybody in the place thought there was something wrong with it. They were calling for the doctor because I don't stop playing. My shows are 3 hours. And she said, "Do you play any Billy Joel?" I said, "No." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, he doesn't play my songs. I don't play his." And I said, "Are you here with somebody?" She said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, where is he?" "Well, he's playing golf. He's not coming back till 9 o'clock. I said, "Would you care to have a drink?" "I don't even drink." Everybody's going ballistic. I sit down at the bar. I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" She goes, "Well, he's playing golf." I said, "Rent a bicycle." And she said, "What?" I said, "Rent a bicycle." I said, the golf, they had 2 pro-am golf courses. I said, one of the pro golfers has a condo. Rent the bike. We'll take it down. We'll put it in his garage. Let me take you over. We'll take a walk. Would you like to take a walk on the beach and meet my daughter? Sure. So we did that. Then the next day was like, what am I going to tell him? I said, "Tell him you want to go for a hamburger." He's playing golf again. So we went for a hamburger. And we just started, we met like that. When I walked in with her, my daughter, she went, "Psst." I said, "What?" She goes, "Dad, don't blow this one." I said, "What?" She said, "Don't blow this one." Because, she used to be carrying the ones in her unconscious.
Yeah.
Laying them on the couch.
Well, don't play golf when Stormin Norman is around.
No, I can't play golf. They paid me $100 not to drive the ball.
But 35 years, you were married? Then you were married 30?
With Jamie for 34 years.
34 years after that. What an amazing start.
And I never had an argument in 34 years.
Wow.
Never. The last 4 were tough with the
Yeah.
with the dementia and Alzheimer's. But I never missed a breakfast to feed her or dinner. I never missed getting new clothing. I did all the laundry myself for her. I filled her stuff. I waited till she was changed and in bed watching TV. I did everything I could possibly do.
God bless you, man.
And like I said, she died in my arms. And it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. So, and she got over 400 phone calls because the last few days she could only hear. But we had 2 cell phones, and people were calling to talk to her.
Wow.
It's been a roller coaster.
A life well lived on so many levels, man. Right down to that.
I couldn't be happier, really. Today's not as easy a day as I thought it was going to be. I can usually breeze through everything.
Understood.
I didn't breeze through this too good.
Yeah.
And and we've got the album going, and that's been selling. Like I said, I did over 40 national radio interviews in the last 2 months. All of them were an hour.
All I'm missing here now, talking to you, is wishing that we had a piano here, because, man, like, just when I visited you at your home a little while, and it's like your fingers are like, it's like magic watching your fingers. It's just, it's amazing. And I wish I could be around for Porchfest, but I'm going to catch you at Triumph at least.
It's different, and we pull off some. Besides the New Orleans things, we pull off Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, you can do everything.
Yeah, so it's.
Did you get to everything you wanted to?
Well, like I said, Habcore is very expensive, important. They do wonderful things. The New Jersey Center for the Healing Arts, the Triumph Brewery for us, for myself, Ryan, and myself, November 10th, and the Porchfest. We're the only groups going to be playing there, so I really urge people to come out at 77 McLaren Street.
That's going to be fun.
I think they want to put up some kind of a bandstand for us, because 2 pianos is a little bit stretched.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
This was really great.
I enjoyed it, and like I said, let me know when it's available, and I will spread this everywhere for you. I have over 50 sites.
Stormin, Norman, Seldin, Red Bank legend.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, that wraps up this episode of the Red Bank Green podcast here from Shared Universe Studios right here in Red Bank. Check us out on redbankgreen.com. If you're not subscribing to our newsletter and checking there every day, you are missing out. And you can always email me as well. Send me suggestions. Who should we have next on the podcast? You can send me that suggestion, and would love to hear suggestions for guests to have on here and anything else. My email is easy to remember. Brian, Brian, at redbankgreen.com. That's it. We will let, speaking of rock and roll, we'll let the Ribeye Brothers, Red Bank Rockers, take us out.